A long, long time ago, the area that is now Waltham Forest was countryside. 1500 years ago, only about 100 people lived here, spread out on farms around the Lear Valley. A few hundred years later, this community grouped together and started calling themselves Wilcomstow, a place where strangers are welcome. From then on, many strangers would move here and make Waltham Forest their home, transforming it into the vibrant community it is today and one of the most diverse boroughs in the country.
India, Asia or Australia, but you must come back to London City. Well, believe me, I am speaking from my I am glad. Get a bottle of milk.
Well, I came here 1957, September 10th.
I came here in 1957 from Antigua.
I first came here April 1957.
Oh, I was 19. I got married. Stupid fool. And my husband went away, so I followed him.
At the time, it was a flow that many people wants to come to England, and I had just left school a couple of years before, and having not picked up a job, I decided to come over to England and try my luck, see what happens.
You like to know another country. You can't just stay in Antigua and don't know nowhere else. You want to know somewhere else. So the opportunity was there for you to come to England, so you take it.
I always have a good job, which I did have a good job. But as a youngster growing up, when you look around and see people moving here and elsewhere, I've seen that and something go to me. People are moving on, why should I stay here? And that's why I really come here.
So I said, but when we going to reach to England? So his name was John. He said, we're in England, we're going home. So I said, England, we pave with gold. I don't see no paving here.
Well, I actually expected to see a very, say, brilliant country with lots of food, lots of people. Everything was nice and rosy. But then I was disappointed, because in Antigua we used to call England the mother country. So you come to England, you expect everything was far better than what it was in Antigua, but it wasn't. I used to see people picking up food off the floor in the market in Dalston, and I said, how comes? I mean, you've got all these English people, dominant white people, and they're picking up things off the floor like the piece of cabbage or potato and all that, putting them in their bags. I was surprised, really.
Now, in the West Indies, we are taught a lot about England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland. When I came here, the English, they don't know nothing about the Caribbean, and yet we were British colonies. I remembered one day an Englishman asked me if Barbados was the capital of Trinidad. I said, haven't you been taught geography? And no, yeah. And some of the questions that they ask, I thought to myself, we've been British colonies for over 300 years, and these people know nothing about us, which I think is sad, very, very sad.
I had no qualms about what England would be like. All they told me it's cold, and that's all. And I find it very cold, because I came here pregnant with my last child, me and my husband. And I found it very cold because I couldn't get my eyeballs open. They were frozen, and my ears and my fingers. Couldn't get the key in the door because it was so cold in Yorkshire. Very, very, the worst place in the world to live. So to me, that was a great, how to put it, to my structure. From hot to very cold, yes.
And when we came now, We were in one room, so I asked him for the other room. So he said that we don't have no other room, it's just one. So we have to make do with it now. I said, oh, I bet I did stay home because you have this big house with gallery and everything can look out, and now I come this one little room.
So the first night that I arrived, the ship, I must say, arrived at Plymouth, got the train. The destination was Paddington. My husband-to-be met me at Paddington and took me straight to this English family home. And there was the couple at the door, welcomed me, had my own bedroom, hot water bottle, blanket, the lot. And I was really, welcomed.
My husband came 1960, and then I came over with 2 kids in 61, yes, and we were living in Clapton. At first when we came, they didn't want, we couldn't get house to live in, because they didn't want black people and people with children and so on. So we got a flat in Clapton, and they were all right. Then we saved and bought a place in Leighton there, where we are till now.
For me, the plan was 5 years.
Oh, you had a... Yeah.
I had a plan, no.
Well, that was what my husband planned, that we would go back. We only came here for 5 years, but we done spend how much from 60 to now?
No, plan was for 5 years. That 5 years becomes almost 50 years now.
Most West Indians that I've heard say they came here 5 years' time, they'll be going back. I came here indefinite.
I came here with intention to really spend 5 years, get a bit of money and turn back. But when I come and see what's going on and how the country sets up, I changed my mind because it could not work out that way. For a start, when I came here, I didn't like the country at all. I didn't like that sort of atmosphere, that weather. Winter and snows and all these things, it was getting on top of me. And I was to turn back if I did have the money. But apparently, I didn't have the money to turn back, otherwise you'd know me. I would turn right back.
But there were black people living in the borough of Waltham Forest long before the 1950s. Early records go back as far as the 17th century, and some of this old history is preserved in the local museum.
The Walthamstow Workhouse, now the Vestry House Museum, was originally built in 1730. As you approach the front entrance, you'll notice there are some words there that say, "If they will not work, then neither should he eat," which gives you a very good idea of the kind of place the workhouse was meant to be. It was built to house at least 20 to 30 paupers or poor people, but was subsequently extended to house almost double that number. And that was the extent of the number of poor people living in Walthamstow at the time. Coming to Britain as an enslaved African servant was not an easy experience. Many of them tried to become baptized because they felt that by doing so, it would increase their rights.
Thomas King, a native of Africa who lived in Marsh Street, now High Street, Walthamstow, where Walthamstow Market is, actually was baptised in this church. We know of a Mary Blackmore from the workhouse, now the Vestry House Museum, buried somewhere in this church. We know of a George Blackman, also who lived at the workhouse, who's also buried here.
Walthamstow was then what was referred to as a pretty retiring place for gentlemen. You would have had very large mansions inhabited by stockbrokers, merchants, and bankers, and these men would have had African enslaved servants like Thomas King working in their homes. George Pompey, an enslaved African, Obviously, this wasn't his real name. This would have been a name given to him by his owners. He worked for a man called Sir Fisher Tench, who lived in the Great House in Leighton, opposite what is now Leighton Youth Centre. On the top of this church is a cupola. It's one of the last remaining evidence of the Great House of Leighton, where African enslaved servant George Pompey lived and worked. He's also buried in this church, and he was buried on the 3rd of September 1735. But we're unsure exactly where he's buried in this graveyard, unlike the Tench family, who have a very large and grand memorial. George Pompey's name is not inscribed on this monument, as he was not considered important enough to be associated in death with this family.
As a part of the work that I do as a counsellor, I look at certain issues where my community is concerned, and last year I was informed that the government has made provisions for us to celebrate the bicentenary of the transatlantic slave trade. Yeah, I think that looks better. The words is from John Middleton. Give me the liberty to know, to utter and to argue freely, according to conscience above all liberty. To me, that depicts what slavery is all about, in the sense that it's to give me the liberty to know. It's to let me know why you're doing this to me. Let me understand what is this all about. To utter and to argue freely is for me to put my case forward as to why I think what you're doing is wrong. To utter and argue freely according to conscience and above all liberty is questioning your conscience above all things else, of why you've taken me from my place across the Atlantic to a new place. I don't know if there's another borough in London who have done what we've done here in Waltham Forest. They might have done other gestures, but as far as I am aware, Waltham Forest is the only one who's got a tree and a plaque specifically for the remembrance of those who died in the Atlantic slave trade.
Fast forward 150 years to the 1950s. At the end of the Second World War, Britain was busy rebuilding. The government started recruiting workers from the Caribbean to cope with the shortage of labour in some British industries. Some companies even opened recruitment offices in the Caribbean, enticing people to come to England.
Work wasn't a problem for me when I came to England, because I left home knowing that I was coming straight into a nursing school. So I knew what I was coming to do, and that wasn't a problem for me.
When I came in a Sunday night, and I started my work a Thursday. I was working at Homerton High Street, Matthew Smith box making, and I was there for years.
I got a job within a week, and in that firm, they were very friendly. It was they used to make paper bags for wrapping things, and it was very friendly because they were. Fortunately for me, there were about 3 or 4 more Antiguans there, so I was actually at home.
I was 15 when I came here, and to get something to do was impossible, just impossible. I used to work at Lions Corner House in Tottenham Court Road, I remember. That was my first job. And at 15, and never ever come out of your village before. Can you imagine how daunting that was?
My job was secure from in Antigua, so I came straight over to work for a firm in this country, which was at the BBC Television Centre.
A friend of mine came down and she told me there's a good job in nursing. So I came down and joined the nursing extravaganza. Worked in a place called Leytonstone House for 30 years. It's a mentally handicapped place, just behind there by the Green Man. And that's what I've done since I came to London.
I have, well, let's see, come across many situations which at the time, 1966, wasn't fully aware of what it was all about, the politics of living in Britain, I call it.
I wanted a job in a foil company, and it was a company that never employed many black people.
Cheap labor, with a promise that having done so much, you can go on and do X, Y, Z.
And I saw that advert, and I went there to ask for the job. And as soon as I entered the gate, they said there's no vacancy.
I remember one of our tutors in the pupil nurse training school saying, I just can't understand why all you girls are sitting here doing pupil nurse training when you're quite capable of doing your SRN training. She says, never mind, as soon as you finish, just go on and you can do your SRN.
And I called, trying to speak proper English language. And they sent me a form, fill this in. And I filled that in. And they said, come for the interview.
Having done the pupil nurse training and applied at the very same hospital to do your training, what was the answer? No, you are not capable.
So when I went for the interview now, I think they were surprised.
However, with your capabilities and everything, you were left to run the ward, carry on the ward, manage the ward.
And I had to keep looking, but then in the end, I finished before all the others. And I thought, well, I could see it. Should we take him? Because they went and talked.
To move forward and to get that piece of paper saying you're a state registered nurse, there was a big barrier there. A very, very big barrier.
They said, oh, we'll have him. And then I got in there. And I worked there for about 21 years. When I went up, there was another black guy. He said, Joe, how did you get in here? I said, boy, I played a smart thing on them. And when I went for the test, they couldn't stop. They had to take me on. You know, and I enjoyed that time until I retired from work there.
Well, actually, I was one of those men that I used to live a fast life.
I'd have to look back at then and now. Then in the early days, socializing, it was mainly within your community.
I raved for about 30 years. Real strong, real hard. Wear good clothes, drink plenty, and do all different things, but never get myself in trouble. You know, I enjoy myself. Call it about 35 years. I work hard, but I have to go out there and do that. If I don't go out there and do that, it's going to be a problem.
People would get together, have house parties, and socialize. And it was good fun.
Well, we had a nice social gathering because my husband, they form a group, a social group where they'll meet and discuss and so on. And so often they used to take us out dancing down the West End. You know, we dress up on Saturday evening in long gown, and
till now I still go so. Friends come to us Christmas Day, and then Boxing Day we gone to them, then New Year's Day we gone somewhere else. So it was really nice, and plenty outings we used to get the coaches, and we go to the seaside and thing. It was very, very nice, but I slow down a lot now with that.
Yeah. Oftentimes we go out together and we socialize and have fun. We don't stop to think, well, I'm black, this is white, I'm not going there. No, I want to go there, I'm going there. I like that, I will do that.
Yeah, go in and then go to the cinema, we sit there, we move away.
Make yourself a little more comfortable, you know. I've got more
space. My bag down there, you know.
Yeah. But again, yes, people, I think, you know, it depends upon people, their personality and all that.
And I'm glad I came to England I would never forget my stay here.
After I started having children, probably maybe 30 years, when the children were grown up, knowing that they had no intention of going back to the Caribbean to live, then I decided, well, England is my home.
I'm very, very happy living in England. It's a wonderful country, and I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I'm very grateful. I have no regrets.
I enjoyed, my stay, and I'll do it all over again.
Yeah, well, you see, after so many years, here is my home. I come from the Caribbean, but nearly 50 years and got 6 children born here, 3 boys, 3 girls. Here is my home. You see, if I want to go back home, which I said to you, I can't go if I want to. But it's not, at the moment, it's not playing on my brain. I'm just relaxing. Life is too short.
When you have nothing to do, you can take a walk down Shaftesbury Avenue. There you would laugh and talk and enjoy the breeze and admire the beautiful scenery of London. That's the best of it.
We've got a very large African Caribbean community in Waltham Forest. We've got about 34% of the population of Waltham Forest is of African and Caribbean descent. There is a lot of understanding and tolerance in Waltham Forest. We don't seem to, as a community, split apart and blame each other for various reasons. Certain parts of London you do have split communities, but we haven't got that in Waltham Forest. Our tolerance has to be there, and our understanding has to be shown as well.
London is the place for me. London, this lovely city. You can go to France or America, India, Asia or Australia, but you must come back to London City. Well, believe me, I am speaking broad-mindedly. I am glad to know my mother country. I've been traveling to countries years ago, but this is the place I wanted to know.